I only took photos for official documentation purposes.
You're turning private matters into public scandal.
My 14-year-old daughter was crying in my home office, showing me photos on her phone that made my blood run cold. 23 images. Her bedroom, her bed with stuffed animals, her dresser with personal items, her closet partially open showing clothing, her walls covered with posters, her desk with schoolwork, and her diary visible, all photographed by Claire Whitmore, our HOA president, and emailed to 12 strangers on the board. She said the inspection was mandatory, Dad. She said I had to unlock my door and let her take pictures for compliance records. I didn't know I could say no. I'm Michael Torres, criminal defense attorney, 16 years defending clients against illegal searches, privacy violations, Fourth Amendment breaches. I've built my career on one principle: your home is your castle, and no one enters without your consent or a warrant. The board chair had just violated everything I've spent my career protecting. If you've ever felt that moment when someone crosses a line with your child, when authority becomes violation, then hit subscribe now. Claire Whitmore thought she was documenting curtain violations. She'd actually created evidence of unauthorized entry, invasive photography of a minor's private space, and exploitation of a teenager's deference to adult authority. Let me tell you why this matters more than property rules or community standards. Emma has severe anxiety disorder. Spent 18 months in therapy after brutal bullying at her previous school, left her terrified, unable to sleep, convinced nowhere was safe. Her bedroom became her sanctuary, the one place where she could process trauma, rebuild confidence, exist without fear. When she was 12, I installed a lock on her bedroom door. My promise to her: this space is yours. You control who enters. Your privacy is absolute. Your sanctuary is protected. My mother taught me that. An immigrant who fled a country where privacy didn't exist, where authorities could enter homes without permission, where locked doors meant nothing. She raised me believing that in America, your bedroom door with a lock means something sacred, that you control your own space, that privacy is dignity, that home is the one place power can't reach you without consent. The enforcer in crimson had talked my daughter into unlocking that door, photographed her most intimate private space, and distributed those images to 12 people Emma doesn't know, all because purple curtains allegedly violated HOA aesthetic standards. Emma hadn't slept in 3 days, couldn't enter her bedroom without panic attacks, kept asking if strangers could see her diary and the photos, if they were judging her stuffed animals, if they thought she was weird because of her posters. Her therapist called it acute anxiety regression, said Emma lost 18 months of progress in one afternoon. I read the email subject line again. Violation documentation, Torres residence. Documentation. The clipboard queen had documented her own crimes, unauthorized entry into a minor's bedroom, invasive photography without parental consent, distribution of images showing a 14-year-old's private space. She'd handed me evidence. I looked at my daughter, shaking and terrified in the room that was supposed to be her safe space, and made a decision that would change everything. I wasn't going to sue. I wasn't going to complain to the board. I wasn't going to negotiate or mediate or try to resolve this quietly. I was going to expose her completely, because the tyrant in heels had just targeted the wrong attorney's daughter, and she had no idea what happens when you violate a child's sanctuary, while her father specializes in illegal searches. Where are you watching from? Because what happened next became a case study in why some battles need to be fought publicly, loudly, and without mercy. I stayed up all night researching, Emma finally asleep in the guest room because she couldn't face her violated bedroom. First, the HOA covenants. I pulled up the official documents, read every word of the inspection clause. Clear as day. The association reserves the right to conduct exterior property inspections to ensure architectural compliance with community standards. Exterior, not interior, not bedrooms, not private spaces. The board chair had no authority to enter my home, let alone photograph my daughter's bedroom. I started making calls, careful questions to other parents in Ridgemont Estates. Hey, has the HOA ever done any interior inspections at your place? What I discovered made my hands shake with rage. Tom Martinez, 3 houses down. Yeah, back in April. The enforcer in crimson said our daughter's window treatments violated standards, Wanted to inspect the bedroom to verify compliance. Our 15-year-old was home alone. Let her in because she said it was mandatory. Sarah Chen, 2 streets over. Last summer, our 13-year-old's bedroom. Something about paint colors visible through windows. Claire took pictures of everything. The bed, the closet, personal items. My daughter felt violated. We didn't complain because we thought we had to comply. Rebecca Williams. 6 months ago, our 16-year-old. The clipboard queen said teenage rooms needed visual clutter inspections to ensure they met standards. Took photos, emailed them to the board. My daughter still won't open her curtains. 4 families, 4 teenage girls, all bedroom inspections, all photographed by Claire Whitmore, all while parents were at work and daughters were home alone, vulnerable to adult authority, a pattern, systematic targeting of homes with teenage daughters. I pulled Texas Penal Code statutes, cross-referenced privacy laws, reviewed cases on unauthorized entry and invasive photography. The tyrant in heels had violated multiple statutes: unauthorized entry into a habitation, invasive visual recording, improper photography of a minor's private space without parental consent. She'd been doing it for months. At 2 a.m., I stood in Emma's doorway, looking at the room she wouldn't enter. The lock I'd installed gleamed in the hallway light. That promise I'd made when she was 12. This room is yours. You control who enters. Your privacy is absolute. I'd failed her. An adult with fake authority had convinced my daughter that compliance was mandatory, that unlocking her door was required, that an HOA president's demands superseded her own bodily autonomy and right to privacy. Emma had trusted the system, trusted that adults telling her something was mandatory were telling the truth. The board chair had exploited that trust to photograph a child's bedroom. I thought about my mother's stories, about living in a country where privacy didn't exist, where authorities entered homes without permission, where saying no to power meant punishment. She'd fled to America believing things were different here, that locked doors meant something, that private spaces were protected, that children had rights adults couldn't violate. In America, she'd told me when I was Emma's age, your bedroom is sacred. No one enters without your permission. That's what freedom means. Claire Whitmore had stolen that freedom from my daughter. I looked at the lock on Emma's door one more time. Tomorrow, I'd start calling the other families. I'd document everything. I'd build a case showing systematic violation of children's privacy disguised as HOA enforcement. But tonight, standing at my daughter's violated sanctuary, I made a different kind of decision. This wasn't going to be quiet. This wasn't going to be settled privately. This wasn't going to be handled through normal HOA dispute channels. The enforcer in crimson had targeted children, and I was going to make sure everyone knew exactly what she'd done. Every parent in Texas, every HOA in America, every family who'd ever felt powerless against authority that crossed the line. Claire Whitmore's bedroom inspection program was about to become national news. She just didn't know it yet. Jennifer Hayes appeared at my door at 9 p.m. the next evening, eyes darting to the street behind her like she expected surveillance. "Mr. Torres, I need to talk to you." Her hands trembled as she gripped her purse. About Claire, about the inspections. I recognized her, HOA secretary, always beside the tyrant in heels at community meetings, always taking notes with perfect posture. I stepped aside, let her in. She stood in my living room, wouldn't sit, kept shifting her weight from foot to foot. Her fingers twisted the purse strap, glanced at the windows, checked her phone twice in 30 seconds. "You're terrified," I said. "Yes." Her voice cracked. She finally sat, perched on the edge of my couch like she might bolt any second. "I have 3 daughters, 13, 15, and 17, and Claire's inspected one of their rooms." Jennifer's face crumpled. 4 months ago, my middle daughter, Sophie, purple, bedspread, said it violated neutral tone requirements visible through windows. I was at work. Sophie was home with a cold. She wiped her eyes. Claire came over, told Sophie the inspection was mandatory. My daughter, she felt violated afterward, creeped out, started keeping her curtains closed constantly, won't change clothes in her room anymore. "Why didn't you stop her? You're on the board." "Because my husband's construction company holds $80,000 a year in HOA maintenance contracts." The words came out bitter, ashamed. "Claire controls those contracts. I questioned her once, just once, about the bedroom inspections. She pulled me aside after the meeting, reminded me how much our family depends on HOA business, suggested it would be unfortunate if the board decided to rebid those contracts. Jennifer pulled a thumb drive from her purse, hands shaking so badly she nearly dropped it. I copied everything before I came here, all the bedroom photos she's taken, 47 images across 4 families, all teenage girls' bedrooms, email chains between the board chair and board members discussing inspection strategies, meeting minutes where I documented her statements about needing visual proof of interior violations. She set the drive on my coffee table like it weighed 100 pounds. There's something else. Claire keeps backup copies of all the photos on her personal phone and laptop. Not just HOA records, personal devices. She's created folders, organized by family name. Multiple photos per home. Jennifer's voice dropped to a whisper. Mr. Torres, she told us the photos were compliance documentation, but she shows them on her phone during closed board meetings, scrolls through teenage girls' bedrooms like she's reviewing a collection. My stomach turned. Why are you telling me this now? Jennifer looked at her hands. Because last week, the clipboard queen mentioned at a meeting that my oldest daughter's room might need an inspection, said she'd noticed concerning decorative choices visible from the street. She's targeting my family now, Mr. Torres, setting up her next, whatever this is. She finally met my eyes, and I saw something shift from fear to determination. I can't officially help you yet. Can't risk my husband's contracts, can't afford to lose $80,000 a year. But I came to warn you, she's planning more inspections. Has a list of 10 homes, all families with teenage daughters. She calls it ensuring comprehensive interior compliance. You're choosing money over protecting children. I was. Jennifer stood, straightened her shoulders. But my daughter asked me yesterday why I let that woman take pictures of her bedroom, and I didn't have a good answer. I just had excuses about business and contracts and financial security. She walked toward my door, paused with her hand on the knob. That thumb drive has everything you need to prove what she's doing. Use it. Expose her. Stop her before she gets to my oldest daughter. Her voice hardened. And when you do, when this goes public, I'll testify. I'll lose the contracts. I'll face whatever comes. But I won't be complicit anymore. Then she was gone, slipping back into the darkness, still looking over her shoulder. I picked up the thumb drive, felt its weight. Evidence, systematic targeting, pattern of behavior, personal device storage. The enforcer in crimson had been collecting photos of teenage girls' bedrooms for months, and she had no idea her own secretary had just handed me everything I needed to destroy her. The new violation notice arrived by certified mail at 7 a.m., 3 days after Jennifer's visit. I signed for it, feeling the thick envelope, already knowing what was inside. Mandatory comprehensive interior inspection required. The tyrant in heels had escalated. Page 1 detailed my alleged violations. Non-compliant window treatments visible from exterior sightlines require verification of interior compliance throughout the residence. Page 2 listed specific areas demanding inspection. Emma's bedroom, again, Emma's bathroom, upstairs hallway, living room, kitchen, essentially every space in my home. Timeline, 72 hours to schedule the inspection or face $500 per day in fines. I sat at my kitchen table, read it twice, then typed my response on law firm letterhead. Dear Ms. Whitmore, I do not consent to interior inspection of my home. HOA covenants grant exterior inspection authority only. Access to private interior spaces requires my express written permission, which I formally decline to provide. Regards, Michael Torres, ESCO. Her reply hit my inbox within an hour. Your refusal constitutes violation of HOA Mandatory Cooperation Clause per Section 12.4 of Community Covenants. Fines begin immediately at $500 per day. Continued obstruction will result in foreclosure proceedings. This is your final notice. I forwarded both emails to my personal legal file, documenting her threats. That afternoon, the clipboard queen posted in the Ridgemont Estates Facebook group. Important community reminder. All residents must comply with HOA inspections to maintain our premium standards. Recent refusals by certain problem families demonstrate the need for stricter enforcement of our cooperation requirements. Inspections are mandatory, not optional, compliance protects everyone's property values. 700 members in that group. Within minutes, comments appeared. Which families are refusing inspections? If they're hiding violations, they should be fined. We moved here for the standards. People need to follow the rules. Then someone tagged my wife's profile. Is this about the Torres family? I heard they got a violation notice. More tags, more comments. Neighbors speculating about what we were hiding, why we wouldn't just cooperate, whether we respected community standards. Emma saw it during lunch at school, came home early, crying, saying kids were asking her why her family was causing problems, whether we were those people who didn't care about the neighborhood. She locked herself in the guest room, still wouldn't enter her own bedroom. I found her an hour later, curled up, hyperventilating. Everyone thinks we're bad, Dad. Everyone thinks we're hiding something. Maybe we should just let her inspect again. Make this stop. I knelt beside my daughter and saw what the board chair was doing. Not just violating privacy, weaponizing community pressure, using social isolation to force compliance, making a 14-year-old girl beg her father to allow re-violation of her bedroom just to stop the whispers, the judgment, the social exile. Emma, listen to me. What she did was wrong. What she's doing now is trying to make you feel like standing up for yourself is the problem. It's not. She's the problem. But everyone's talking about us. Everyone doesn't know what she did. They don't know she photographed your bedroom without permission. They don't know she's done it to 3 other girls. They don't know she stored those photos on her personal phone like some kind of collection. Emma looked at me with red, swollen eyes. What are you going to do? I thought about Jennifer's thumb drive, about the 47 photos, about the pattern of targeting teenage girls, about the exploitation of children's deference to adult authority, about my mother's voice. In America, your bedroom is sacred. I'm going to make sure everyone knows the truth, I said. Every parent in this community, every family in Texas, everyone who needs to understand that HOA authority doesn't include photographing children's bedrooms. How? I pulled out my phone, started typing an email to the 3 other victim families. By making this so public, so loud, so impossible to ignore that the enforcer in Crimson's career ends exactly where it should, exposed for what she's really been doing. Emma watched me type, some of the fear leaving her face. Will it work? Yes, because I'm very good at my job, and my job is protecting people from illegal searches and privacy violations. I hit send on the email to the Martinez, Chen, and Williams families. The tyrant in heels thought she could intimidate us into silence. She was about to learn that some fathers don't negotiate when you violate their children. They prosecute. I drove to my law office at 6 a.m., locked the door, and spread everything across my conference table like I was preparing for trial. Because I was. Jennifer's thumb drive, the violation notices, Claire's emails, the Facebook posts, Emma's therapist records, the HOA covenants, my research notes from calls with the other families. Time to stop being a father and start being what I'd trained 16 years to become, a criminal defense attorney who specialized in illegal searches and privacy violations. Except, this time, I wasn't defending. I was prosecuting. I pulled up Texas Penal Code, Section 30.05, criminal trespass. A person commits an offense if the person enters or remains on property without effective consent. Emma's consent wasn't effective. She was a minor, coerced by an adult authority figure, claiming the inspection was mandatory. Section 21.15, invasive visual recording. A person commits an offense if the person photographs or records another person in a bathroom, changing room, or other location where the person has a reasonable expectation of privacy. A 14-year-old's bedroom qualified. The clipboard queen had photographed Emma's bed, closet with clothing visible, personal items, diary. I cross-referenced HOA law precedents, pulled cases where HOA officials exceeded their authority, found a North Carolina ruling, HOA covenants granting exterior inspection, rights do not constitute authorization for warrantless entry into private interior spaces. Fourth Amendment protections against unreasonable searches apply to HOA enforcement actions. The tyrant in heels had no more right to enter Emma's bedroom than a police officer without a warrant. I opened the thumb drive, reviewed the 47 photos systematically. Martinez family, 15-year-old daughter's bedroom, 12 photos showing bed, dresser, closet, personal decorations. Chen family, 13-year-old's room, 11 photos including clothing, visible in partially open drawers. Williams family, 16-year-old space, 14 photos with focus on bed and desk areas. Torres family, Emma's bedroom, 23 photos showing everything. Stuffed animals, posters, diary on desk, clothes and closet. All teenage girls, all bedrooms, all photographed by the board chair, all stored on her personal devices. I called my colleague Sarah Chen, no relation to the victim family, who specialized in privacy law and child exploitation cases. I need a professional opinion, off the record. She arrived within an hour, reviewed the evidence in silence. Michael, her voice was tight. If someone has 47 photos of teenage girls' bedrooms saved on personal devices, phones, laptops, organized in folders by family name, and those photos weren't taken by parents or for legitimate professional purposes, say it. This isn't HOA enforcement. This is potentially predatory behavior disguised as inspections. She pulled up the photos again. Look at the angles. Look at what she focused on. Beds, closets with clothing, personal items. These aren't compliance documentation shots. These are invasive, intimate views of children's private spaces. She claimed she needed visual proof of violations. Violations of what? Purple curtains? Teenage posters? There's no legitimate HOA interest that requires photographing a 14-year-old stuffed animals or diary. Sarah met my eyes. The pattern matters here. 4 families, 4 teenage girls, no teenage boys, no adults, just girls between 13 and 16, all photographed in their bedrooms, all images saved on her personal devices separate from official HOA records. My hands clenched. What would you call this in legal terms? Systematic targeting of minors for invasive photography under color of authority, exploitation of children's compliance with adult demands, collection and storage of images showing minors in private, intimate spaces. She paused. Michael, I'd call it criminal, and I'd call it something parents need to know about immediately. I thought about the enforcer in Crimson's list of 10 more homes, 10 more families with teenage daughters, 10 more bedrooms she planned to photograph. I'm not just suing her, I said. I'm exposing her, publicly, nationally. Every parent in America who's ever worried about authority figures having access to their children, they're going to know what she did. How? I started typing an email to investigative journalists I'd worked with on previous cases. By making this story so compelling, so horrifying, so impossible to ignore, that the clipboard queen's career doesn't just end, it becomes a cautionary tale about what happens when HOA authority crosses the line into children's bedrooms. Sarah watched me type. You're going nuclear? I'm protecting children, mine and everyone else's. I hit send on media outreach emails. The tyrant in heels thought she could threaten me with fines and foreclosure. She had no idea I was about to make her infamous. Emma's therapist called at 2 p.m. requesting an emergency meeting. I drove to Dr. Sarah Lynn's office within 20 minutes, found her reviewing notes with an expression I'd never seen before, clinical concern mixed with barely controlled anger. Your daughter is in crisis, Michael. She showed me Emma's latest assessment scores. Anxiety levels that had taken 18 months to bring down to manageable ranges had spiked back to where they'd been immediately after the bullying trauma. Sleep disruption, loss of appetite, hypervigilance, intrusive thoughts, social withdrawal. Emma won't enter her bedroom. She's sleeping in your guest room, but barely sleeping, maybe 3 hours a night. She's having panic attacks triggered by closed doors, by the thought of anyone seeing her personal space, by feelings of exposure and violation. Dr. Lynn pulled out a formal letter she'd drafted. I'm writing this for any legal proceedings you're considering. Emma Torres's bedroom represented her only safe space after severe bullying trauma at her previous school. For 18 months, we've worked on rebuilding her sense of bodily autonomy, her right to privacy, her control over her own environment. That bedroom with its lock symbolized her recovery, a place where she determined who had access, where she felt protected, where she could process trauma without fear. She looked at me directly. The unauthorized intrusion and photographing of that space has triggered acute anxiety disorder with PTSD-like symptoms. The distribution of those images to 12 unknown adults has created feelings of violation, exposure, and complete loss of control. This child's mental health has regressed 18 months in 1 week. Can she recover? Eventually, with intensive therapy. But Michael, Dr. Lynn's voice hardened, the person who did this needs to face consequences. Because if Emma learns that adults can violate her privacy, photograph her sanctuary, and face no repercussions, that teaches her the opposite of everything we've been working toward. It teaches her that locked doors don't matter, that her consent doesn't matter, that authority can override her autonomy whenever it wants. I drove home with that letter, thinking about the tyrant in Heel's new email that had arrived while I was in the meeting. Mr. Torres, fines have accumulated to $3,500 for refusal to cooperate with mandatory inspections. Payment is due within 10 days, or foreclosure proceedings will be initiated. Additionally, I'm scheduling follow-up compliance inspections for the Martinez, Chen, and Williams residences to ensure previously documented violations have been corrected. Inspections will occur within 30 days. She was going back to the other families, going to photograph those girls' bedrooms again. I sat in my driveway, hands gripping the steering wheel, and felt something click into place. This wasn't about winning an HOA dispute. This wasn't about getting an apology or a policy change. This was about stopping a predator who'd figured out that compliance inspections gave her legal cover to access teenage girls' private bedrooms and photograph their intimate spaces. I walked into my house, found Emma in the guest room, staring at nothing. "Baby, I need to show you something." I sat beside her, pulled up my laptop, showed her the email I'd started drafting to investigative journalist Jessica Ramirez. "I'm not handling this quietly. I'm not negotiating with the board chair. I'm not trying to resolve this through normal HOA channels." Emma read the draft. "You're going to the media? I'm going to make sure every parent in America knows what she did. Every family who's ever worried about their daughter's safety. Every person who thinks HOA authority is absolute. Will people see the photos of my room? Heavily redacted. Your face won't be visible. Your personal items will be blurred. But yes, people will understand that she photographed a 14-year-old's bedroom without permission." Emma was quiet for a long moment. "I don't want other girls to go through this. Neither do I." She looked at the bedroom door down the hall, her door with its lock, that she couldn't bring herself to enter. "Do it, Dad. Expose her. Make everyone know what she did." If you've ever had to watch your child break because someone violated their trust, you know what happened in my mind right then. Sometimes protecting your family means going to war, loudly, publicly, without mercy. I pulled up my contacts, started making calls. First, Jessica Ramirez. "I have a story about an HOA president systematically photographing teenage girls' bedrooms. Interested?" Second, the 3 victim families. "I'm going public with this. Media exposure, national coverage. Are you in?" Third, a child privacy advocacy organization. "I need help amplifying a case of authority figure exploiting children's compliance to access private spaces." Every call, another piece falling into place. The clipboard queen thought she could threaten me with foreclosure. She had no idea I was building a media firestorm that would burn her career to ash. By evening, I had commitments from journalists, victim families, and advocacy groups. The Enforcer in Crimson's bedroom inspection program was about to become the story every parent feared most. And she was about to learn that some violations demand public accountability. Jennifer Hayes returned 2 days later with something heavier than a thumb drive. She carried a briefcase and a look of absolute determination. I talked to my husband, told him everything, what the tyrant in heels did to Sophie, what she's been doing to other families' daughters, that she's planning more inspections. Jennifer set the briefcase on my dining room table. "He said the contracts aren't worth it, that if we lose $80,000 but protect children, we can rebuild our business. But we can't rebuild our integrity if we stay silent." She opened the briefcase, pulled out organized folders. Complete HOA meeting minutes for the past 8 months. Every closed session where Claire showed board members the bedroom photos. I documented her exact words. Jennifer opened the first folder, showed me her handwritten notes. March 15th. "These images provide visual proof that interior violations exist. Parents who obstruct inspections clearly have something to hide. April 22nd. Young residents are more compliant with inspection demands, which makes documentation more efficient than dealing with resistant parents. My jaw tightened. She said that? That targeting kids is more efficient? Word for word. I recorded it in the minutes as discussion of inspection procedures, but I kept personal notes with exact quotes. Jennifer pulled out more folders. Email chains between the clipboard queen and board members. Watch this one. She showed me an email from Claire to the full board. Upcoming inspection targets: Hartley residence, teenage daughter, room visible from street, Morrison family, 2 daughters ages 14 and 16, non-compliant decorative choices, Patterson home, daughter age 15, excessive window treatments. Targets. She'd called children targets. There's more. Jennifer's hands shook as she pulled out printed photographs. These are screenshots from Claire's phone that she showed us during board meetings. She keeps the bedroom photos in folders organized by family name on her personal device, not in official HOA digital records. The photos showed exactly what Jennifer described: folders labeled Martinez, Chen, Williams, Torres, each containing multiple bedroom images. She scrolls through them during meetings like she's reviewing a portfolio, shows us different angles of the same rooms, zooms in on specific details. Last month, she spent 10 minutes showing us photos of the Williams girls' closet, explaining why the clothing organization violated visual standards. Jennifer met my eyes. Michael, I've been a mother for 17 years. I know what predatory behavior looks like. And watching a grown woman scroll through teenage girls' bedroom photos on her personal phone, stored in organized folders, kept separate from official HOA records, her voice broke. That's not compliance documentation. That's a collection. She pulled out one final document, a printed list. 10 families, all with daughters between 13 and 17. The board chair's inspection schedule for the next 3 months. She's been planning this systematically, waiting for times when parents are typically at work, when daughters are home alone, when she can approach children directly without parental supervision. I stared at that list. 10 more bedrooms, 10 more girls. Why are you giving me all this now? Because Sophie asked me last night if Mrs. Whitmore was going to come back and take more pictures of her room. My daughter is terrified in her own home, Michael, and I realized I've been complicit. I sat in those meetings, watched the enforcer in crimson show those photos, listened to her plan more inspections, and I said nothing because I was afraid of losing money. Jennifer stood straighter. I'm testifying, publicly, to everything I witnessed. I'll provide these documents to any journalist, any investigator, any authority that needs them. And when you expose her, because I know that's what you're planning, I'll stand beside those families and admit I should have stopped this months ago. Your husband's contracts are worth less than my ability to look my daughters in the eye and tell them I protected children when it mattered. She pushed the briefcase toward me. Use this. All of it. Show everyone what she's been doing. Make sure the tyrant in heels never gets near another child's bedroom. After she left, I sat with that briefcase full of evidence. Meeting minutes documenting Claire's statements about targeting compliant children. Email chains calling teenage girls inspection targets. Photos proving she stored bedroom images on personal devices. A systematic plan to photograph 10 more girls' private spaces. And testimony from an insider willing to admit her own complicity to stop it. I called Jessica Ramirez. I have everything you need for the story. Meeting minutes, emails, documentation of systematic targeting, a witness willing to go on record. When can we run it? I thought about Emma, still unable to enter her bedroom. About the other 3 girls already violated. About 10 more on the clipboard queens list. 72 hours. I need to coordinate victim families, preserve evidence, file legal complaints. Then we go nuclear. This is going to be national, Michael. Parents' rights groups, child safety advocates. This hits every nerve. Good, because the board chair needs to become a cautionary tale about what happens when authority figures exploit children under cover of regulations. I hung up and started organizing the evidence. The enforcer in crimson thought she was untouchable. In 3 days, she'd be infamous. I spent the next 48 hours building the media case with the precision I'd used for 16 years in criminal defense. Except this time, I wasn't defending. I was prosecuting. Jessica Ramirez arrived at my office at 9 a.m. with a cameraman and a list of questions that showed she understood exactly what this story meant. "Let me frame this correctly," she said, reviewing Jennifer's evidence. HOA president systematically targets homes with teenage daughters, manufactures violations requiring bedroom access, exploits children's compliance with adult authority, photographs intimate private spaces, stores images on personal devices in organized folders, plans future inspections of 10 more girls. That's the pattern. And you have documentation, meeting minutes, emails, witness testimony. I spread everything across the conference table. Jennifer's handwritten notes with the tyrant in heels exact quotes about compliant young residents, email chains labeling families as inspection targets, screenshots showing bedroom photo folders on Claire's personal phone, Dr. Lynn's letter documenting Emma's psychological trauma, the list of 10 families scheduled for future inspections. Jessica photographed every document, her expression growing darker with each page. The parents I'm interviewing, the Martinez, Chen, and Williams families, they're willing to go on camera, with daughters' faces obscured and identities protected. They want other families to know what happened, want to make sure no one else stays silent out of fear. What about your daughter? I thought about Emma, still sleeping in the guest room, still unable to face her violated sanctuary. No interview, but I'll speak about the impact. About watching my child regress 18 months of therapy progress in 1 week because an HOA official photographed her bedroom and distributed the images. Jessica nodded, started outlining the story structure. We'll lead with the pattern: 4 families, 4 teenage girls, systematic bedroom inspections, then we'll show the evidence, the emails, the meeting minutes, the personal device storage. Finally, the legal analysis, why this isn't HOA enforcement, it's exploitation of children disguised as inspections. What's your headline angle? She didn't hesitate. What would you do if an HOA official photographed your teenage daughter's bedroom? We make every parent imagine their child in this situation, make them feel the violation, make them understand that authority doesn't give anyone the right to access children's private spaces. I contacted the child privacy advocacy organization I'd worked with before. The director, Maria Santos, reviewed the case within hours. "Michael, we're amplifying this nationally the moment it airs. This hits every concern parents have: privacy invasion, authority exploitation, targeting of children, storage of intimate images. We'll coordinate with parents' rights groups, privacy advocates, child safety organizations. The board chair will claim she had HOA authority. Let her. We'll have legal experts explain on camera that HOA covenants don't override children's privacy rights or parental consent requirements. We'll show that compliance inspection isn't legal cover for photographing teenage girls' bedrooms. I also prepared the legal framework, filing criminal complaints, preservation notices, emergency motions. I drafted formal complaints to local police, unauthorized entry, invasive visual recording, potential voyeurism given the pattern of targeting teenage girls. I filed preservation orders requiring Claire to maintain all bedroom photos, all emails, all communications about inspections as evidence in pending proceedings. I prepared civil filings documenting privacy violations, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and exploitation of minors. But most importantly, I coordinated the victim families. Conference call with the Martinez, Chen, and Williams parents. All agreed to participate. All wanted their stories told. All wanted the clipboard queen exposed. Mrs. Martinez: "My daughter still won't open her curtains. She's terrified someone's watching, judging, photographing. If telling our story stops this from happening to other families, we're in." Mr. Chen: "Our 13-year-old asked us why we let that woman violate her privacy. We didn't have a good answer. Maybe helping expose her is our answer now." Mrs. Williams: "I want every parent to know, if an HOA official demands access to your child's bedroom, you can say no. We didn't know that. Our daughter paid the price for our ignorance." By evening, everything was coordinated. Jessica's story would air in 72 hours on the evening news. The advocacy organizations would amplify it nationally within minutes. The victim families would provide testimonials showing the pattern, I would provide legal analysis explaining why the enforcer in Crimson's actions were criminal, not administrative. And Jennifer Hayes would testify as an insider, admitting her complicity, but exposing the full scope of Claire's systematic targeting. I called the Tyrant and Heel's attorney, gave him professional courtesy warning. Your client should preserve all evidence related to HOA bedroom inspections. There will be media coverage, legal filings, and potential criminal investigations starting in 72 hours. Are you threatening my client, Mr. Torres? I'm informing you that your client photographed my 14-year-old daughter's bedroom, stored those images on personal devices, and has been systematically targeting teenage girls for invasive photography under false claims of HOA authority. The public has a right to know. Preserve the evidence. I hung up before he could respond. The clipboard queen would have 3 days to prepare, 3 days before her career exploded on national television, 3 days before every parent in America learned her name. The board chair thought she could threaten me with fines and foreclosure. She was about to discover what happens when you target a criminal defense attorney's daughter. You don't just lose, you become infamous. I filed the preservation motions at 8 a.m., 72 hours before the media storm. Emergency request to the court. Claire Whitmore must preserve all photographs, emails, text messages, and documents related to HOA interior inspections. Destruction of evidence would constitute obstruction. The judge granted it within 2 hours. I had a process server deliver the order to the Tyrant and Heels personally at 10 a.m., along with formal criminal complaints I'd filed with local police. Count 1. Criminal trespass, unauthorized entry into residences. Count 2. Invasive visual recording, photographing minors in private spaces without parental consent. Count 3. Improper photography or visual recording, creating images of children in locations where they had reasonable expectation of privacy. Her attorney called at noon, voice tight with controlled anger. You're weaponizing the legal system because of an HOA dispute, Mr. Torres. Your client photographed 4 teenage girls' bedrooms without their parents' knowledge or consent. She stored those images on personal devices. She's planning to do it to 10 more families. That's not an HOA dispute. That's systematic exploitation of children disguised as compliance inspections. The HOA covenants grant inspection authority. For exterior property compliance, read Section 8.2. There's nothing authorizing interior bedroom access, nothing permitting photography of children's private spaces, and absolutely nothing allowing an HOA official to store images of teenage girls' bedrooms on her personal phone. I paused. Tell your client the story airs in 60 hours. She might want to prepare a statement. I contacted the 4 victim families for final coordination. We met at my office, the Martinez, Chen, Williams, and Torres families together for the first time. 8 parents who'd stayed silent out of fear, shame, or confusion about whether they had the right to say no. Mr. Martinez spoke first. I've been a cop for 20 years. I enforce the law, and I let an HOA official violate my daughter's privacy because I thought we had to comply with inspections. That's going to haunt me. Mrs. Chen wiped her eyes. Our daughter asked, if the photos of her bedroom are on the internet, we can't promise her they're not. We can't guarantee the clipboard queen hasn't shared them with anyone beyond the board. That's every parent's nightmare. Mrs. Williams was quiet for a long moment. My 16-year-old won't apply to colleges yet, won't send photos for applications. She's terrified that if she becomes public in any way, someone will recognize her bedroom from the HOA photos. Claire Whitmore didn't just violate my daughter's privacy, she stole her confidence to exist publicly. We reviewed the media strategy together. Jessica would interview each family separately, faces obscured, voices altered if requested. The focus would be on the pattern, the targeting, the exploitation of children's compliance. I would provide the legal framework, explaining why this wasn't HOA authority, it was criminal behavior. Jennifer Hayes would testify as the insider who witnessed it all and finally found the courage to speak. But there was one more element I'd prepared. I pulled up the comprehensive timeline I'd created, a visual representation of the board chair's systematic targeting. January, Martinez family inspection, 15-year-old daughter, 12-bedroom photos. April, Chen family inspection, 13-year-old daughter, 11-bedroom photos. July, Williams family inspection, 16-year-old daughter, 14-bedroom photos. October, Torres family inspection, 14-year-old daughter, 23-bedroom photos. Future targets, 10 more families, all with teenage daughters, inspection dates scheduled through next spring. This shows premeditation, I explained. This shows a pattern. This shows systematic selection of victims based on age and gender. When Jessica presents this timeline on air, every parent watching will understand. This wasn't random enforcement. This was targeted exploitation. We spent 3 hours preparing, reviewing what could be shared publicly, protecting daughters' identities, ensuring the focus stayed on the enforcer and Crimson's pattern of behavior, not on the victim's personal details. By evening, everything was ready. I drove home, found Emma doing homework in the guest room. The story airs tomorrow night. By this time tomorrow, everyone will know what she did. Emma looked up from her books. Will it change anything? Yes, because once it's public, once every parent knows that an HOA official systematically photographed teenage girls' bedrooms, Claire Whitmore won't just lose her position. She'll never be in a position of authority over children again. What about our family? Will people know it's us? Some will figure it out. But the story isn't about you. It's about her. About what happens when authority figures exploit the trust children place in adults. I sat beside her. You didn't do anything wrong, Emma. You were taught to respect adult authority, and she weaponized that trust. What's about to happen isn't about exposing you, it's about exposing her. That night, I received final confirmation from Jessica. Story locked. Running tomorrow at 6 p.m. Runtime 8 minutes. National pickup confirmed. This is going everywhere. I also got a call from Maria Santos at the Child Privacy Organization. We've coordinated with 17 parents' rights groups, 12 child safety advocates, and 8 privacy organizations. The moment your story airs, we're amplifying it with the hashtag #JotjuProtectChildren's Privacy. By tomorrow night, Claire Whitmore's name will be synonymous with HOA overreach and child exploitation. I walked to Emma's bedroom door, the one she still couldn't enter, touched the lock I'd installed 3 years ago. Tomorrow, the tyrant in heels would learn that some violations demand public accountability. Tomorrow, every parent would know her name and what she'd done. Tomorrow, the clipboard queen's career would end exactly where it should, in flames, broadcast nationally, a cautionary tale about what happens when authority crosses the line into children's bedrooms. I just had to wait 18 more hours. 18 hours until justice arrived on the evening news. The story broke at 6 p.m. on every major news outlet in Texas. I sat with Emma and my wife in our living room, watching Jessica Ramirez's face fill the screen. Tonight, an exclusive investigation into an HOA president accused of systematically photographing teenage girls' bedrooms under the guise of compliance inspections. Parents say their daughters were targeted, exploited, and violated, all in the name of enforcing community standards. The screen shifted to B-roll footage of Ridgemont Estates, then to the first interview. Mrs. Martinez, face blurred, voice disguised. My 15-year-old daughter was home alone when the HOA president came to our door. Said the inspection was mandatory. My daughter, taught to respect adult authority, led her into her bedroom. The woman photographed everything, her bed, her closet with clothes visible, her personal items. My daughter felt violated, still does. Cut to Mr. Chen, similarly obscured. Our 13-year-old asked us why we let a stranger take pictures of her room. We didn't have a good answer. We thought we had to comply. We thought HOA rules meant we didn't have a choice. We were wrong. Jessica's voiceover continued over images of the HOA covenants, the relevant section highlighted. But HOA documents show inspection authority is limited to exterior property compliance. Nothing authorizes interior bedroom access. Nothing permits photographing children's private spaces. So, how did this happen to 4 families? And nearly happened to 10 more. The screen showed Jennifer Hayes, face visible, using her real name. I'm the HOA secretary. I was in the meetings where the tyrant in heels, she caught herself, used Claire's name, where Claire Whitmore showed board members the bedroom photos she'd taken. Photos stored on her personal phone, organized in folders by family name. She called teenage girls compliant inspection targets because they were less likely to refuse adult authority than their parents. My jaw tightened hearing Jennifer's testimony broadcast to millions. The story showed redacted screenshots of the emails Jennifer had provided, Claire's messages labeling families as targets, planning inspection schedules around when parents were at work and daughters were home alone. Then Jessica interviewed me, sitting in my law office. You're a criminal defense attorney specializing in privacy violations. When you saw the photos of your daughter's bedroom, what did you recognize? I recognized criminal behavior disguised as administrative authority, unauthorized entry, invasive visual recording, exploitation of a minor's compliance with adult demands. The fact that she stored these images on personal devices, separate from official HOA records, showed intent beyond legitimate inspection purposes. What do you want parents to know? I looked directly at the camera. HOA authority stops at your front door. No covenant grants the right to photograph your child's bedroom. No regulation supersedes your daughter's privacy. If anyone, HOA official, property manager, anyone, demands access to your child's private space, you can say no. You should say no, and if they've already violated that privacy, you have legal recourse. The story showed the timeline I'd created. 4 families victimized, 10 more targeted. Systematic selection based on age and gender. Legal experts Jessica interviewed were unequivocal. This isn't HOA enforcement. This is exploitation of children under color of authority. Photographing minors in their bedrooms without parental consent violates multiple Texas statutes. The pattern of targeting teenage girls specifically raises serious questions about motive. By 7 p.m., the story had gone national. Cable news picked it up. HOA president accused of photographing teen girls' bedrooms. Social media exploded. Yas, protect children's. Privacy trended within an hour. Parents' rights organizations issued statements condemning the clipboard queen's actions. Child safety advocates called for criminal investigation. Privacy groups demanded HOA reform legislation. My phone rang constantly. Media requests, interview offers, messages from parents across Texas reporting similar experiences. Emma watched it all, curled against me on the couch. Everyone knows now, she whispered. Everyone knows what she did, not what you did, because you didn't do anything wrong. By 8 p.m., Claire's attorney issued a statement. Ms. Whitmore conducted routine compliance inspections fully authorized under HOA covenants. The characterization of these inspections as inappropriate is a misrepresentation by disgruntled residents. The statement backfired spectacularly. Legal analysts on cable news eviscerated it within minutes. HOA covenants don't authorize bedroom photography. This statement shows fundamental misunderstanding of privacy law. Calling teenage girls' bedrooms routine inspection sites is exactly the problem. These are children's private spaces. By 9 p.m., the board chair's statement had made things worse, not better. National outlets were running with it. Parents were sharing the story. Advocacy groups were demanding investigation. And somewhere in Ridgemont Estates, Claire Whitmore was watching her career collapse in real time. My phone buzzed. Text from Jennifer Hayes. HOA emergency board meeting tomorrow night. Claire's being forced to attend. Every resident is coming. This is going to be ugly. I texted back, good, let it be public. Let the community see exactly what she did. Emma touched my arm. Dad? The door thing you promised me? About my bedroom always being mine, always being safe? Yeah, baby. You kept that promise. You made sure she couldn't do this to anyone else. I pulled my daughter close, feeling the weight of what we'd just unleashed. The enforcer in crimson wasn't just losing her position. She was becoming the face of HOA overreach, child exploitation, and what happens when authority figures violate the one space children should always control. Tomorrow's emergency meeting would be the final reckoning. But tonight, watching the national coverage, I knew we'd already won. The tyrant in heels was finished, and every parent in America now knew her name for all the wrong reasons. The community center was packed beyond capacity. 175 households. Media cameras banned from inside, but lined up outside. Parents who'd been silent now, ready to speak. Claire Whitmore sat at the board table, alone, her attorney beside her, looking miserable. The tyrant in heels who'd wielded authority like a weapon now faced the community she'd exploited. Jennifer Hayes stood first, voice steady despite her shaking hands. "I'm resigning as HOA secretary effective immediately. For 8 months, I watched Claire Whitmore photograph teenage girls' bedrooms and said nothing because my family's business depended on HOA contracts." She looked at the packed room. "I was a coward. I chose money over protecting children. I enabled systematic violation of privacy because I was afraid of financial consequences." She pulled out the meeting minutes, read from her notes. March 15th, Claire stated, "Young residents are more compliant with inspection demands than their parents." April 22nd, she called families with teenage daughters efficient inspection targets. June 3rd, she showed the board photos of the Chen girl's bedroom on her personal phone, scrolling through multiple angles like reviewing a collection. The room erupted in angry murmurs. Jennifer's voice cracked. "I sat in those meetings. I documented those statements. I watched her plan inspections around when parents would be at work and daughters would be home alone. And I said nothing because I valued contracts over children's safety. I'm deeply, profoundly ashamed." She sat down, wiping tears. I stood next, Emma beside me, not speaking, but present, showing the community what the board chair's actions had cost. 4 families, 4 teenage girls, systematic bedroom inspections, 47 photographs stored on personal devices, all under false claims of HOA authority that never existed. I displayed the HOA covenants on the projector screen, highlighted Section 8.2, exterior property inspections for architectural compliance. That's the extent of HOA authority. There's nothing authorizing interior bedroom access, nothing permitting photography of children's private spaces. The clipboard queen exceeded her authority and violated state law. Mrs. Martinez stood, her 15-year-old daughter beside her. "My child still won't open her curtains. She's terrified someone's watching, judging, photographing her private moments." Claire Whitmore didn't just violate privacy, she stole my daughter's sense of safety in her own home. Mr. Chen's voice was tight with controlled fury. Our 13-year-old asked us why we let a stranger photograph her bedroom. She wanted to know if the pictures are on the internet, if anyone else has seen them, if she'll ever feel private again. We can't answer those questions because we don't know what the enforcer in Crimson did with those images after she took them. Mrs. Williams stood with her 16-year-old. "My daughter won't apply to colleges, won't send photos for applications. She's terrified that if she becomes publicly visible, someone will recognize her bedroom from the HOA photos and expose her." Claire Whitmore didn't just violate privacy, she stole my daughter's confidence to exist in the world. Then Emma spoke, surprising everyone, including me. "I had a lock on my bedroom door. My dad installed it when I was 12, so I could feel safe, so I could control who entered my space. Mrs. Whitmore convinced me that unlocking it was mandatory, that I had to let her photograph everything." Her voice was small but steady. "I learned that locks don't matter if adults lie about authority. That privacy doesn't exist if someone says, 'It's required.' That my safe space wasn't actually safe." The room was absolutely silent. Claire tried to stand, tried to speak. The community shouted her down. "You photographed children. You stored images on your personal phone. You targeted our daughters." The board vice president called for order, then called the vote. Motion to remove Claire Whitmore as HOA president effective immediately. Motion to ban her permanently from any HOA leadership position. Motion to refer this matter to law enforcement for criminal investigation. Motion to amend bylaws prohibiting any interior inspections without written homeowner consent. Unanimous. Every single household voted yes. The tyrant in heels stood, tried one last time to claim she'd acted within her authority. A mother in the back shouted, "You photographed my friend's daughter's bedroom. You're done." Claire's attorney pulled her toward the exit. She left that meeting stripped of power, facing criminal charges, her name now synonymous with child exploitation disguised as HOA enforcement. Jennifer approached the families afterward. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't stop this sooner." Mrs. Martinez looked at her for a long moment. "You stopped it eventually. That matters." The community stayed for 2 hours after the board chair left, establishing new leadership, drafting protective policies, creating accountability measures. 3 military families volunteered for the new board, a child psychologist, 2 attorneys, people committed to ensuring authority would never again be weaponized against children. I held Emma's hand as we walked to our car. "You were brave tonight, baby." I wanted other kids to know, if an adult tells you something's mandatory, you can question it. You can say no. Locks mean something. The clipboard queen had tried to teach children that authority overrides autonomy. Instead, she'd taught an entire community that protecting children's privacy matters more than any covenant, any regulation, any claim of mandatory compliance. And she'd become the cautionary tale I'd promised to make her. 3 months later, I stood at Emma's bedroom door, the one she could finally enter again. Claire Whitmore had pleaded no contest to criminal trespass and invasive visual recording. 18 months probation, mandatory counseling, permanent prohibition from any HOA leadership position in Texas, and a restraining order keeping her away from all victim families? The criminal plea wasn't everything I'd wanted, but it was public record. Permanent documentation that the tyrant in heels had committed crimes against children, not conducted legitimate inspections. Civil settlements came next. The HOA's insurance paid each victim family for the psychological harm, the therapy costs, the violation of privacy. Emma's settlement went into a college fund, money she'd used to study psychology, to help other kids who'd experienced trauma and boundary violations. But the real victory wasn't legal or financial. Ridgemont Estates had new bylaws explicitly prohibiting interior inspections without written homeowner consent. New leadership included child advocates, attorneys who specialized in privacy rights, and parents committed to ensuring authority would never again be weaponized against children. The community established a residents' rights committee with power to challenge any HOA action that threatened privacy or dignity. Every family received documentation explaining their rights, that HOA covenants don't override constitutional protections, that children's spaces are categorically off-limits, that mandatory compliance has legal limits. Jennifer Hayes served on that committee, working to rebuild trust she'd broken by staying silent. Her husband's company still held HOA contracts. The new board honored them in recognition of her eventual courage. The national coverage triggered changes beyond our community. 3 other Texas HOAs faced similar investigations after families came forward with stories of invasive inspections. State legislators introduced bills requiring HOA transparency and explicit privacy protections for residents. Parents' rights organizations used our case as a template for fighting HOA overreach. Child safety advocates made Emma's story, identity protected, a cautionary tale about teaching children they can question adult authority that violates their boundaries. Most importantly, Emma was healing. She slept in her own bedroom now. The door with its lock once again represented what I'd promised when she was 12: control, safety, sanctuary. Her therapist said she'd processed the trauma by transforming it into advocacy. Emma started speaking at schools about consent, boundaries, and the right to say no to adults who demand access to private spaces. Just because someone has authority doesn't mean they have the right to violate your privacy, she'd tell other kids. Locked doors mean something. Your bedroom is yours, and if an adult tells you compliance is mandatory, you can question it. I installed a new plaque beside her bedroom door. "This room belongs to Emma. Entry by invitation only. Authority stops here." She touched it every morning before school. The clipboard queen's career hadn't just ended. It had become a case study in what happens when HOA enforcement crosses the line into children's private spaces, when inspections become invasions, when covenants are weaponized against the vulnerable. Claire's name was now permanently associated with child exploitation and privacy violation. A Google search would forever show the news coverage, the criminal plea, the testimony from families she'd victimized. She'd wanted to enforce standards. Instead, she'd set a precedent for what communities won't tolerate. I received calls weekly from families facing similar HOA overreach. Some I helped directly. Others I connected with attorneys who specialized in privacy rights. Each case reinforced the lesson. Authority without limits becomes tyranny, and protecting children's spaces matters more than any regulation. Emma and I visited the other victim families last week. Watch those girls slowly reclaim their bedrooms, their confidence, their understanding that they controlled access to their own spaces. Mrs. Martinez's daughter had opened her curtains again. The Chen girl was decorating her room exactly how she wanted, no longer afraid someone would photograph and judge her choices. The Williams teenager had applied to colleges, submitted photos, stopped hiding from public visibility. All of them healing, all of them stronger for having fought back. Emma looked at me during that visit and said something that made everything worth it. "Dad, you kept your promise. My bedroom's safe again, and now other kids know theirs. Can be too." That night, standing at her door with its lock and its plaque, I thought about my mother's words. In America, your bedroom is sacred. The enforcer in Crimson had tried to prove that wrong. Instead, she'd proven exactly why that principle matters, why privacy is dignity, why consent is fundamental, why children's spaces must be protected from any authority that claims the right to violate them. Claire Whitmore thought HOA covenants gave her unlimited power. She learned that some violations demand public accountability, that protecting children creates precedent, and that bedroom doors with locks mean something sacred our legal system will defend. The tyrant in heels lost everything: her position, her reputation, her ability to ever again hold authority over families. And 4 teenage girls learned that fighting back works, that privacy matters, and that locked doors aren't just symbolic. They're legally protected boundaries no covenant can override. If you want more stories about families standing up to authority that crosses the line, protecting children's rights, and proving that community standards never justify violating privacy, hit subscribe right now, share your own story in the comments, and let me know where you're watching from. Because sometimes the greatest victories come from refusing to stay silent when someone violates what should always be sacred: a child's right to safety, privacy, and control over their own space. Emma's bedroom door is locked again, but this time, it represents more than my promise. It represents a community's commitment that no authority, HOA, official or otherwise, will ever again photograph children's private spaces and call it compliance. The board chair is gone, the children are safe, and locked doors mean something again.